I want to tell you something tonight that Albert Einstein believed with complete seriousness. Not a theory he was testing, not a hypothesis he was working toward. Something he arrived at through decades of the most rigorous thinking the 20th century produced and held with quiet, unshakable conviction until the day he died. He believed that the past still exists, not in memory, not in photographs or records or the traces that events leave behind. The actual past, the physical past, the events themselves. He believed that the moment you were born is still happening, right now, somewhere in the structure of the universe. That the moment of your death, wherever and whenever it comes, is already there, already fixed, already real, in the same sense that this present moment is real. That tomorrow morning is already happening. That years from now, in whatever form they take, are already laid out, not as possibilities, not as probabilities, as facts, already existing, already real. The universe, in Einstein's picture, is not a story being written as it goes. It is a story that has already been written in its entirety from the first moment to the last. And what we experience as the present moment, this sensation of now, this feeling of being here in this specific instant that seems to divide the real past from the not yet real future, is just the point where our awareness happens to be, moving through a landscape that was always already there. This is called the block universe theory. And tonight, as you settle into the dark and let your body rest, we are going to walk through it slowly, carefully, and completely. We are going to explore where it comes from, what it means, what some of the greatest minds in history have made of it, and why it might unexpectedly be one of the most calming ideas you have ever encountered. Before we get started, if you love exploring the depths of theories as much as we do, take a second to like the video or subscribe. It's a simple action, but it helps this channel reach more curious minds like yours. Let's begin. Take a slow breath. Let your body find its heaviest, most comfortable position. Because we are about to talk about time. And time, it turns out, is the strangest thing in the universe. Before we go further, let us make sure we understand what is actually being claimed. When physicists say the past still exists, they do not mean it in a vague or poetic sense. They do not mean that the past lives on in our hearts, or that the effects of past events continue to ripple through the present. Both of those things are true, but they are not what the block universe theory is saying. The block universe theory is making a specific, technical, physical claim. It is saying that space-time, the four-dimensional fabric that everything in the universe is made of, is a single, complete, static object. It has 4 dimensions, 3 of space, and 1 of time. And all 4 of those dimensions exist equally and simultaneously. In the same way that the left side of a room and the right side of a room both exist at the same moment, neither more real than the other, neither privileged over the other. The past and the future both exist in the same sense that the present does. The universe, in this picture, is like an enormously long, enormously complex block. Every moment in time is a slice through that block. Every place in space is a position within a slice. Every event, everything that has ever happened or will ever happen is a point in the block. And the block does not change. It does not grow. It does not evolve. It simply is. All of it, at once, timelessly. The word that physicists use for this is eternalism, from the same root as eternal. The view that all times exist, past, present, and future, with equal reality. The opposite view, the one most of us instinctively believe, is called presentism. The view that only the present moment is real. That the past has ceased to exist and the future does not yet exist. That reality is a single, constantly changing now. Presentism is what common sense tells you. Eternalism is what Einstein's equations tell you. And Einstein's equations have not been wrong yet. The feeling of now, the sense of being in a specific present moment, of time flowing from past to future like a river, is one of the most immediate, powerful, undeniable aspects of human experience. It feels more certain than almost anything else. Right now, as you listen to these words, you are experiencing this moment as the present. The words you heard 5 seconds ago are past, they are gone, they are done, they are no longer happening. The words you will hear 5 seconds from now are future, they have not arrived yet, they do not exist yet. This is not just how it seems. This is how it is, isn't it? Well, here is where the trouble begins, because the question of what makes one moment the present moment, what makes now special, what privileges this instant over all other instants, turns out to be surprisingly difficult to answer from within physics. Physics can describe what happens at each moment. It can describe how the state of the universe at one moment relates to the state at another moment. It can describe the laws that govern change over time. But physics has no special place for now. In the equations of physics, past and future look essentially the same. The laws of nature at the fundamental level are mostly time-symmetric. They work equally well, running forward or backward. An electron moving forward in time looks mathematically identical to an electron moving backward in time. The flow of time, the sense that events happen in a particular direction, that the past is fixed and the future is open, that now is real in a way that then is not, none of this appears in the fundamental equations. It appears only in our experience of the equations. Which raises a deeply uncomfortable question. If the flow of time is not in the physics, where is it? Is it in us? Is the passage of time not a feature of the universe, but a feature of how minds like ours experience the universe? And if so, what does the universe actually look like from the outside without the filter of a mind moving through it? The answer that physics points toward is a block, a vast, static, four-dimensional block containing everything that has ever happened or will ever happen, with no privileged now, no flow, no arrow, just the block. Now let us go back to where this idea came from, because it did not arrive fully formed. It was built, step by step, over centuries. And the path that leads to it is one of the most beautiful stories in the history of human thought. It begins with Isaac Newton. In Newton's universe, the universe of classical mechanics, which dominated science from the late 17th century until the early 20th time, was absolute, universal, the same everywhere. At any given moment, there was a single now that applied everywhere in the universe simultaneously. Every particle, every planet, every observer, no matter where they were or how fast they were moving, shared the same universal clock. This is what Newton assumed, and for 200 years it worked brilliantly. The mathematics described the motions of planets, the trajectories of cannonballs, the vibrations of pendulums with extraordinary precision. Time, in Newton's picture, was the background against which everything happened. A container, a stage, absolute, uniform, unchanging. Then came a series of experiments in the late 19th century that produced results no one could explain. And then came Albert Einstein. And Newton's absolute time turned out to be wrong. In 1905, Einstein was 26 years old, working as a patent clerk in Bern, Switzerland, and thinking very hard about light. Specifically, he was thinking about what it would be like to travel alongside a beam of light at the speed of light. If you could somehow match the speed of light, exactly if you could run alongside it the way you might run alongside a train, what would you see? Newton's physics suggested you would see the light beam frozen, standing still, a stationary wave of electromagnetic energy. But Einstein had a deep instinct that this was wrong. He believed, for reasons he found hard to fully articulate, that a stationary light wave was physically impossible. That whatever you did, however fast you moved, light would always appear to be moving away from you at the same speed. He spent years trying to make sense of this intuition. And then, in one extraordinary period of thought, he saw it. If light always travels at the same speed for every observer, if that is a fixed fact of nature, as his intuition insisted, then something else must give. Something must change to accommodate it. That something, Einstein realized, was time. Time, it turned out, was not absolute. It was not the same for everyone. It was not a fixed, universal background against which events played out. Time was flexible, elastic, relative. The rate at which time passes depends on how fast you are moving. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you, relative to someone who is stationary. This is not a subtle effect that only shows up in exotic conditions. It is a basic feature of reality. GPS satellites have to correct for it constantly because they move fast enough relative to the ground that their clocks run slightly slow. Without the correction, GPS would be off by miles within a day. Time dilation is real. It has been measured. It is one of the most precisely confirmed predictions in the history of science. But the implications go much deeper than GPS systems. If time passes at different rates for different observers, depending on their speed, if there is no universal clock, no single, now that applies to everyone, then the question of which events are simultaneous becomes deeply strange. Two events that are simultaneous for one observer may not be simultaneous for another observer, moving relative to the first. This is called the relativity of simultaneity, and it is one of the most disorienting ideas in physics. Imagine two events happening at opposite ends of a very long train. A flash of light at the front of the train, a flash of light at the back of the train. For a person standing in the middle of the train, both flashes happen at the same moment. They are simultaneous. But for a person watching from the platform as the train goes past, the flashes happen at different moments. Because the train is moving, the front of the train is moving away from one flash and the back is moving toward the other. The person on the platform sees the flashes at different times. Same events, different observers, different answers to the question of when. Both answers are correct. Neither is more right than the other. There is no fact of the matter, independent of the observer, about whether two spatially separated events are simultaneous. The present moment, the slice of time called now, is not universal. It is observer-dependent. Your now and my now, if we are moving relative to each other, are not the same. And this, as physicists realized, means that the question of what exists right now has no single answer. What exists right now depends on who is asking. And if what exists right now is observer-dependent, then the idea that only the present moment is real, that only now exists, becomes very hard to defend, because different observers have different nows. The most natural conclusion is that all moments exist equally past, present, and future. And what changes between observers is just which slice they are currently experiencing. The block universe. This is the point where we pause. Let the ideas settle. Feel the strangeness of what has just been said. You are lying in the dark, in what feels like a very specific present moment. The most present moment there has ever been. The only moment that exists. And physics is suggesting that this feeling, this powerful, immediate, undeniable sense of being in a particular now may not correspond to anything in the fundamental structure of reality. That the feeling of now is something your mind generates, something your brain produces as it processes information in a particular sequence, not a reflection of a privileged moment in time. But the sensation of moving through a landscape that is already complete. Breathe with that for a moment. There is no hurry. The night is long and the ideas will keep. Let us try to build a picture of what the block universe looks like. Not mathematically. Mathematics is the language it was discovered in, and the mathematics is beautiful. But tonight, we are doing something different. Tonight, we are trying to feel it, to imagine it, to let it become something that sits in the mind in a way that is vivid and real. Before we begin, let us acknowledge something. The reason the block universe is hard to imagine is not because it is too abstract. It is because it asks us to do something that human minds find extraordinarily difficult. It asks us to step outside of time and look at it from the outside. We are time-bound creatures. Every thought we have, every image we form, every concept we work with has a temporal dimension. We think in sequences. Ideas follow one another. We cannot hold everything before us all at once the way we might hold a physical object in front of us and turn it in our hands. So when we try to imagine the block universe, all of time existing at once, past and future equally real, we keep slipping back into temporal thinking. We keep adding movement to the picture. We keep wanting the block to do something, to evolve, to change. But it does not. The block just is. The challenge tonight is to let something just be. To hold an image that does not flow, that does not go anywhere, that is simply completely wholly there. Start with something familiar. A photograph. A photograph is a two-dimensional record of a three-dimensional scene. When you look at a photograph, you see width and height, but not depth. The third dimension has been flattened into the two-dimensional surface of the image. You can look at every part of the photograph at once, the left side and the right side, the top and the bottom. Nothing in the photograph is more present than anything else. Nothing is moving. Nothing is changing. The whole thing is simply there, all at once. The entire scene frozen into a static image. Now imagine extending this analogy. Imagine you could take a photograph, not just of space, but of space-time. Not a photograph of a three-dimensional scene at a single moment, but a photograph of a four-dimensional scene across all of time. In this photograph, you would see not just where things are, but when they are. A person's entire life, birth, childhood, adulthood, old age, death would appear as a single extended object in the photograph. Not a sequence of moments, but one continuous thing, stretching from one end of its time dimension to the other. Physicists call this the world line, the path an object traces through space-time. Your world line begins at your birth and ends at your death. It curves and bends as you move through space. Every step you take, every journey, every moment of stillness creates a different shape in the fourth dimension of time. But the whole thing, beginning, middle, end, exists all at once in the four-dimensional photograph. And you, the you that is lying here right now, are just one thin slice through that world line. One moment in a four-dimensional story that is entirely written. This is the block universe. Now let us think about what the people in the photograph are doing. Every person who has ever lived appears in the four-dimensional photograph. Their entire lives laid out from birth to death, like long curved threads, weaving through the block. Your parents are there. Your grandparents are there. The philosopher J.M.E. McTaggart, writing in 1908, made a distinction that has been central to the philosophy of time ever since. He distinguished between two ways of describing time. He called them the A series and the B series. The A series is the way we normally experience time. Events are described as past, present, or future. The property of being present constantly shifts. What was future becomes present, then becomes past. The A series is dynamic, it changes, it flows. The B series is a different way of describing time. Events are described in terms of their relations to each other. Earlier than, later than, simultaneous with. Your birth is earlier than your fifth birthday. Your fifth birthday is earlier than today. These relations are fixed. They do not change. The B series is static. McTaggart himself believed that neither series gave a fully coherent account of time, and his argument became one of the most influential and contested in philosophy of time. But the block universe theory is essentially a B-series view of time. In the block universe, what is real is the four-dimensional structure of events and their fixed relations to each other, earlier, later, simultaneous. What is not real, or at least not fundamental to the physics, is the A-series, the flowing dynamic sense of past, present, and future, constantly shifting. The A-series is something our minds impose on the B-series structure when we experience it sequentially from the inside. The block does not flow, we flow through it. Or rather, the thin slice of awareness we experience as the present moment moves through the block, though even that way of putting it is misleading because from the block's perspective, the movement is part of the block too. Let us slow down and take a specific example. Think about a moment from your past. Something specific. A memory that is vivid and real and carries some emotional weight. Perhaps a holiday from childhood. Perhaps an important conversation. Perhaps a moment of unexpected beauty. A landscape, a piece of music. Something that caught you completely off guard. You have the memory now. The moment itself is gone. It happened, it ended, it passed into the past. It no longer exists in the way that this moment exists. That is what common sense says. But in the block universe, something different is true. That moment is still there. Not in memory, not in the physical traces it left behind, but in itself, at its own coordinates in the four-dimensional block, as fully real as it was when it was happening. The holiday, the conversation, the moment of beauty, they are all still occurring, right now, in their own region of space-time. If you could somehow travel in time, not move through the present, but move through the fourth dimension the way you move through space, you could go there. You could visit it. It would be exactly as it was. Physicists talk about this in terms of what they call the eternalist commitment. All times are equally real. The pastness of a past event does not diminish its reality any more than the farness of a distant place diminishes its reality. The Colosseum in Rome is real even though it is far away. You are not there, and yet it exists. In the block universe, your childhood is real even though it is long ago. You are not there, and yet it exists. There is a moment in Einstein's life that brings this home in a way that is hard to forget. In 1955, Einstein's oldest and closest friend, Michel Besso, died. Besso and Einstein had known each other since they were students in Zurich. It was Besso, quiet, thoughtful, endlessly patient, who had been Einstein's sounding board during the crucial weeks in 1905, when Einstein was working out special relativity. Einstein later said that when he had been stuck, a conversation with Besso had unlocked something that led directly to the solution. He credited Besso in the published paper. They had been friends for 60 years. Einstein wrote a letter to Besso's family shortly after his death. He was in his own final weeks. He would die himself just a month later. And in the letter, he wrote something that has been quoted by physicists and philosophers ever since. He wrote that Besso had now departed from this strange world a little ahead of him. And then he wrote, "That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Read those words again slowly. The distinction between past, present, and future. Only a stubbornly persistent illusion. This was not Einstein being poetic in a moment of grief, reaching for comforting metaphors to soften the loss. He was not saying, as people sometimes do at funerals, that the dead live on in our hearts, or in memory, or in the ripples they left behind. He was making a precise physical claim. He was saying that from the perspective of the physics he had spent his life developing, Besso was not gone. Not in any fundamental sense. His life, the whole of it, from beginning to end, existed as a world line in the four-dimensional block. The fact that Einstein's now had moved past the coordinates of Besso's last moments did not make those moments less real. It just made them past. And pastness in the block universe is not the same as absence. The past is not gone. The future is not absent. The distinction between them, the line we draw around now and call the present, is an illusion. Not a harmless or unimportant illusion. One of the most powerful and persistent features of conscious experience. Something that shapes every moment of our lives. Something that underlies our sense of loss and anticipation and regret and hope. But an illusion nonetheless, generated by the mind moving through the block, not by any fundamental feature of the block itself. Besso was still alive, in his own region of the block. Still real, still present, still existing at the coordinates of his own life. The 60 years of friendship, the conversations, the collaboration, the ordinary texture of a long, close human relationship, all of it's still there, at its own coordinates. From the perspective of the block, nothing is ever lost. Everything that has ever happened is still there. This is what Einstein believed when he was 1 month from his own death, writing to the family of his oldest friend. This is what the physics suggests, and it is worth sitting with, even if we cannot be certain it is right. Let us stay with the implications of this for a moment, because they reach into places that feel personal rather than abstract. Every moment you have ever experienced is still there. Every conversation you have had, every place you have been, every version of yourself you have been, through the child, the adolescent, the younger adult, all of them are still there, in their own regions of the block, not as memories, not as echoes, as themselves, as the person you were at 7 years old is still there, in the block, at the coordinates of that year, fully alive, fully real, fully experiencing whatever they were experiencing. The people you have lost are still there. Whatever their final years or months or moments were, those moments are still happening in the block. The conversations you had with them are still occurring in their own region of space-time, as real as they were when they happened. This does not make grief easier in any simple way. The present, the region of the block, where you find yourself now, does not include them. Your world line and theirs have diverged, and you cannot cross back to where theirs continues. But there is something in it that is not nothing. They are not gone. They are elsewhere in the block. In the same way that someone in another city is elsewhere in space, but still real, still existing, still being themselves, someone in the past is elsewhere in time, but still real, still there, permanent. Let your breathing deepen a little. We have been moving through dense territory, through special relativity and space-time and the philosophy of time. Let the ideas settle. You do not need to hold all of it. The goal is not to memorize. The goal is to let these ideas do what large ideas do when you sit with them in the dark. They rearrange something gently in how the world feels. Rest here for a moment, just breathing in the block. There is an obvious objection to everything we have been discussing. It is this: time clearly moves, experience clearly flows. Whatever the physics says about the block, the lived reality of being a conscious human being is one of constant movement through time. Moments arise and pass. The future becomes present, becomes past. Something changes. If the block is static, if past, present, and future all exist equally and simultaneously, then why does everything feel so dynamic? Why does time seem to flow? Why does the present feel so obviously different from the past? This is one of the deepest and most contested questions in physics and philosophy of mind. It goes by the name, the problem of the arrow of time. And exploring it takes us into some of the strangest and most beautiful territory in the whole landscape of human knowledge. Let us start with a simple observation. The laws of physics at the fundamental level are almost entirely symmetric with respect to time. What this means is that if you filmed any fundamental physical process, a particle interacting with another particle, a photon being emitted by an atom, a nucleus decaying, and played the film backward, the reversed film would also show a physically valid process. It would not violate any law of physics. Particles can move in either temporal direction without physics complaining. This is called time reversal symmetry, and it holds remarkably well across most of physics. But your experience of the world is not symmetric with respect to time, not even slightly. You can remember the past, but not the future. You cannot unscramble an egg. Heat flows from hot to cold, and not from cold to hot. A glass falls and shatters, but shattered glass does not spontaneously reassemble. Stars burn their fuel and age and die, and dead stars do not undie. The everyday world has a very clear direction to time, a very definite arrow that points from past to future, and not the other way around. Where does this arrow come from, if the fundamental laws of physics have no arrow? The answer lies in a concept called entropy. Entropy is, roughly, a measure of disorder, or more precisely, a measure of the number of ways the components of a system can be arranged while still producing the same overall appearance. A neat stack of papers has low entropy. There is really only one way to arrange those papers, so they form a neat stack. A scattered heap of papers has high entropy. There are countless different ways to scatter papers around a room that all look equally scattered. The second law of thermodynamics says that entropy tends to increase over time. Systems tend to move from ordered states toward more disordered states. Not because there is a law forcing them in that direction, but simply because there are vastly more disordered states than ordered ones. And random processes are far more likely to land in a disordered state than an ordered one. A glass falls off a table. In the ordered state, all the glass molecules are arranged in the shape of a glass. After it hits the floor, the molecules are scattered randomly across a wide area. There are enormous numbers of possible scattered arrangements and only a vanishingly small number of arranged in a glass arrangements, so randomness overwhelmingly tends towards scatter. This is why broken glasses do not unbreak. Not because physics forbids it, though the physics would actually allow it in principle, but because the probability is so astronomically small that it effectively never happens. Entropy increasing is the source of the arrow of time. The direction we call the future is the direction of increasing entropy. The direction we call the past is the direction from which we came, the lower entropy direction. We're entropy. But this immediately raises a deeper question. Why is the past low entropy in the first place? Why did the universe begin in such an extraordinarily ordered low entropy state that it has been increasing in entropy ever since? The Big Bang, as best we can reconstruct it, was a state of almost unimaginably low entropy. Everything compressed into an incredibly small, incredibly ordered initial condition from which the universe has been expanding and disordering ever since. And why was it like that? Nobody knows. This is called the past hypothesis, the assumption that the early universe was in an extremely low entropy state. It seems to be true. But no one has a deep explanation for why it would be true. The arrow of time, then, ultimately points back to an unexplained fact about the beginning. And in the block universe picture, this unexplained fact is just a feature of one end of the block. The block has a low entropy end and a high entropy end. Conscious beings like us who are made of complex low entropy structures, brains, bodies, memories exist in the region where entropy is increasing. And we experience that increase as the passage of time. We are entropy surfers, riding the wave of increasing disorder. And the wave, in the block, is part of the fixed structure of the whole. There is something both humbling and strangely beautiful about this picture. The universe began in an extraordinarily ordered state, an almost miraculous degree of low entropy for reasons we do not understand. And it has been moving away from that state ever since, expanding, spreading, becoming more disordered, more diffuse, more uniform for 13.8 billion years. The stars are part of this process. They are regions where gravity has concentrated matter, pulling it against the general trend of diffusion, creating pockets of intense order and energy, and then burning through that order, converting it into light and heat that spreads outward into the vastness of space. Life is part of this process. Life is extraordinarily ordered. It is a local, temporary reduction in entropy, sustained by the consumption of low entropy sunlight and the emission of higher entropy heat. Consciousness is part of this process. The brain is one of the most complex and organized structures the universe has produced, and it burns energy at a remarkable rate to maintain that organization. We are the universe's most extravagant experiment in local order. And because of that order, because of the complex organization of our brains and memories and the processes of thought, we experience the increase in entropy as the passage of time. We remember the low entropy past. We anticipate the high entropy future. We feel ourselves moving from the one toward the other. The arrow of time is real. It is physical. It is grounded in the thermodynamics of the early universe. But it is not a feature of the fundamental block. It is a feature of the region of the block we inhabit, a feature of where we find ourselves on the four-dimensional map. Now let us think about memory and what it tells us about time. You have memories, rich, detailed, emotionally weighted records of things that happened before this moment. Your brain stores information about the past in a way that allows you to recall it, to think about it, to learn from it. You do not have memories of the future. This seems obvious. Of course, you do not remember things that have not happened yet. How could you? But in the block universe, the future has happened. Or rather, it is just as real as the past. It is in the block. It exists. It is there. So why do you not have memories of it? The answer is again entropic. Memories are records. They are physical structures in your brain that encode information about events. And the formation of those records requires an increase in entropy. The process of making a record involves irreversible physical changes, which means entropy goes up. This raises something extraordinary. If memory is a physical record made by entropic processes, and if the arrow of time is ultimately just the direction of entropy increase, then in a universe that ran in reverse, a universe where entropy was decreasing rather than increasing, beings like us would remember what we call the future and would not know what we call the past. They would experience time flowing in the opposite direction. And from inside their experience, their direction would feel like forward. Their past, what we would call the future, would feel fixed and certain to them because they would have records of it. Their future, what we would call the past, would feel open and unknown. They would say time moves from the big crunch toward the big bang. The arrow points that way. We would say time moves from the big bang toward the big crunch. The arrow points this way. Both would be right from inside their own experiences, and both would be wrong about any absolute direction of time. There is no absolute direction, just the block, with its fixed structure and the entropic gradient running through it. And minds that form in the regions where complexity can sustain itself, experiencing the gradient as the passage of time. There is something else worth noticing about entropy and the block universe together. If the arrow of time comes from the entropic gradient from the fact that the universe began in an extraordinarily low entropy state and has been increasing in entropy ever since then, the arrow of time is in a sense a borrowed feature. It is not a fundamental aspect of the block's structure. It is something that emerged from the particular initial conditions of this universe. which means that the feeling of time passing, the constant, powerful, pervasive experience of moving from past to future, is, in the deepest sense, a consequence of the specific starting conditions of the Big Bang. Had the universe begun differently, in a different initial state, with a different entropic structure, the arrow might point differently, or might not exist in the same way at all. The passage of time, one of the most intimate and undeniable features of being alive, turns out to be a local phenomenon, a consequence of where we find ourselves in the block, not a fundamental feature of the block itself. Think about what this means for how you feel about time. The relentless forward motion, the sense of being pushed from behind by the past and pulled ahead by the future, the feeling that you are always at the leading edge of something, always at the point where the new is happening. All of that is real as an experience, but it is generated by your position in the block, by the entropic gradient that runs through your region of space-time, by the fact that you are made of complex, low-entropy structures, neurons, proteins, memories, intentions that are sustained by the ongoing increase in entropy around them. You are a mind riding an entropic wave. In the wave is your sense of time. Let us think for a moment about how all of this relates to impermanence, to the ordinary human experience of things ending, things being lost, things changing beyond recovery. We feel impermanence constantly. It is one of the most persistent features of human experience. The good moment passes, the person changes, the relationship ends, the health declines, the world moves on. And typically we experience this impermanence as loss, as things becoming less real, as reality diminishing, moment by moment, as what was present becomes past. In the block universe, this feeling is in an important sense mistaken. Things are not becoming less real when they become past. They are becoming past. Those are different things. A distant city is not less real because it is far away. It is simply at different spatial coordinates. A past moment is not less real because it is long ago. It is simply at different temporal coordinates. The impermanence we feel, the sense that good things are being extinguished as they recede into the past, is generated by the entropic arrow, by our position in the block, by the fact that we are time-bound creatures, moving in one direction through the four-dimensional structure. But the structure itself does not lose anything. The block retains everything. Every moment that has ever been real remains real in the block. Not accessible from where we are now, not available to our present tense experience, but real, at its coordinates, unchanged. This is not a trivial point. It means that the question is not whether the past is real, but whether we can find a way to relate to that permanence that does not require us to be there. And the answer, perhaps, is that we already know how to do this. When we think of someone we love who is far away on a different continent, living a different life, we do not typically feel their existence as a kind of loss. We know they are real. We know they are going about their life. We hold them in mind, not as absent, but as present elsewhere. The block universe invites us to hold the past in a similar way, not as absence, not as loss, not as something that was real and has become not real, but as presence elsewhere, at different coordinates, real. Let your breathing slow a little more now. We have been in deep territory entropy and the arrow of time and the nature of memory. These are some of the most rigorous and strange ideas in all of physics. Let them float. You do not need to hold every detail. The feeling is enough. The texture of these ideas, the way they open up the ordinary experience of time into something vastly stranger. You are lying in the block right now. Your experience of lying here, of hearing these words, of breathing slowly in the dark, this is a thin slice of a four-dimensional structure that extends backward to before you were born and forward to after you are gone. All of it is there. all of it is real. And right now, this slice, this moment, this particular configuration of atoms and energy and awareness, this is where you are. Which is, when you think about it, a remarkable place to be. The block universe is not a fringe idea. It is not a thought experiment confined to the edges of physics. It is, in some ways, the mainstream view. The picture that emerges most naturally from the equations of general relativity and special relativity, which are among the best tested theories in the history of science. But it is not universally accepted. There is a genuine, serious, ongoing debate in physics, in philosophy, in the places where the two intersect about what spacetime really is, about whether the block picture is correct or whether it captures something real but misses something equally important. Let us walk through some of the major positions. The block universe view, what philosophers call eternalism, has some very distinguished proponents. The mathematician Hermann Minkowski was Einstein's former professor, and it was Minkowski who first presented the four-dimensional picture of spacetime in 1908, just 3 years after Einstein's special relativity paper. He said something in that lecture that has echoed through physics ever since. He said, "Henceforth, space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows, and only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality. Space by itself is a shadow. Time by itself is a shadow. Only space-time, the four-dimensional block, is real." Einstein initially found Minkowski's presentation of his own theory difficult and overly mathematical. He reportedly called it superfluous erudition, but he came to embrace it deeply, and it shaped everything he did afterward, including general relativity. It is worth pausing to appreciate what Minkowski's move meant. Before Minkowski, space and time were separate. Space was the stage. Time was the process. Things existed in space and changed over time. The two were fundamentally different kinds of thing. After Minkowski, they were one thing: space-time. A single four-dimensional fabric from which both space and time are derived by choosing how to slice it. Different observers moving at different speeds slice space-time differently. What one observer sees as purely spatial distance, another observer sees as a mixture of spatial distance and temporal duration. Space and time are not separate. They are two aspects of one thing, and which aspects you see depend on how you are moving through the whole. This is not just abstract mathematics. It has real physical consequences that have been measured with extraordinary precision. The physicist Julian Barber, in his book The End of Time, makes the case for an even more radical version of the block universe, in which time does not really exist at all, in which the block is not an extended four-dimensional structure but a timeless configuration, space, and what we experience as time is just the relationship between different configurations. Barber calls these configurations nows. Each now is a complete, static snapshot of all of space, every particle at a particular position, every field at a particular value. There is no time dimension connecting these nows from the outside. There is only the nows themselves, a vast collection of static configurations, and the experience of time arises from the fact that some configurations contain records of other configurations. Memory is a relationship between nows. The sense of time passing is the experience of being in a now that contains records of other nows. In Barber's view, there is no river of time. There are only pools. And what we experience as moving from pool to pool is simply the structure of the pools themselves, the way some configurations include, encoded within them, the information of previous configurations. The philosopher of time, Ted Sider, has made detailed technical arguments for eternalism from within analytic philosophy, examining the logic of temporal language and what it would mean for statements about the past and future to be true. And the physicist Brian Greene, in his book The Fabric of the Cosmos, presents the block universe as the most natural consequence of relativity and describes the flowing present as almost certainly not part of the fundamental structure of reality. Green uses a striking image. He asks us to imagine all of space-time as a loaf of bread. Different observers slice the loaf differently. Different angles through the bread correspond to different definitions of simultaneity, different ways of separating the four-dimensional loaf into spatial slices at a given moment. None of the slices is the real slice. None of the angles of cutting is the true angle. The whole loaf is real. The slicing is something observers do, not something the universe does. But there are serious objections. The most important comes from the philosopher of physics Tim Maudlin, who argues that physics has an arrow of time built into it at a fundamental level, not just thermodynamically, but in the very structure of the laws themselves, and that this arrow requires something more than the static block can provide. Maudlin believes that time genuinely passes, not as an illusion, not as something generated by entropy, but as a real physical feature of the universe. He calls this the passage of time, and he thinks it is just as basic and irreducible as the existence of space. His argument is essentially this: the laws of physics describe how the state of the universe at one time gives rise to the state at the next time. They have a built-in directionality. They tell you how to get from the past to the future, not from the future to the past. This directionality is not just a feature of our description. It is a feature of reality itself, and a purely static block with no genuine direction or flow cannot accommodate it. Maudlin does not deny that relativity is correct. He accepts the four-dimensional picture of space-time, but he insists that the flow of time, the genuine passage from moment to moment, is part of that picture, not an illusion projected onto it by confused human minds. This is a genuinely contested point, and it is not obvious who is right. Another serious challenge comes from quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics describes the evolution of physical systems using a mathematical object called the wave function. The wave function evolves smoothly and deterministically over time, according to the Schrödinger equation, and that part fits perfectly well with the block universe picture. But then measurement happens. When a quantum system is measured, when someone looks at an electron and asks where it is, the wave function appears to collapse. From a spread of possibilities, a definite outcome suddenly emerges. This collapse is abrupt, discontinuous, and deeply resistant to being described as part of a smooth four-dimensional block. Nobody agrees on what the collapse actually is, or whether it is a real physical process or just an update in our information about the system. This is the famous measurement problem of quantum mechanics, and it remains one of the biggest unsolved problems in physics. Different interpretations of quantum mechanics deal with it differently. The Copenhagen interpretation says the collapse is just something that happens when you measure, without any deeper explanation being possible or necessary. The many worlds interpretation says there is no collapse, every outcome happens in a different branch of the wave function, and all branches are equally real. The pilot wave theory says the collapse is an artifact of an incomplete description, and the underlying reality is deterministic after all. None of these interpretations fits easily and cleanly into the simple picture of a static four-dimensional block. Each one has its own way of relating to the block. The many worlds interpretation is perhaps closest, suggesting a block that branches rather than being a single smooth structure, but quantum mechanics as a whole keeps pushing back against the tidiness of the classical block universe. The reconciliation of quantum mechanics with general relativity, of the physics of the very small with the physics of the very large, remains the deepest open problem in physics, and the question of what time is sits at the heart of that reconciliation. There is a version of this debate that goes back much further than Einstein, all the way to ancient Greece. Heraclitus, writing around 500 BCE, said that you cannot step into the same river twice. Everything flows. Everything changes. Nothing is permanent. He was describing a world of pure becoming, A world where the only constant is change, where the river is not a thing but a process, and what makes it a river is not any fixed identity but the continuous flowing. His contemporary Parmenides argued almost the opposite. True reality, he said, is one, unchanging, eternal. Change and movement are illusions of the senses. The true nature of being is static and permanent. Parmenides went further than almost any philosopher before or since. He argued that the very concept of change was incoherent. For something to change, it must become what it was not. But what it was not, the non-being it is moving toward, does not exist. And what does not exist cannot be moved toward. Therefore, change is impossible. Therefore, the appearance of change is illusion. Therefore, reality is one, static, eternal thing. This sounds like sophistry, and in some ways it is, but it planted a seed that grew into a tradition, the tradition of thinking about reality as something fundamentally static, fundamentally complete, fundamentally not in need of happening because it already timelessly is. Plato inherited elements of this from Parmenides. He placed the real world not in the changing world of appearances, but in the eternal world of forms, perfect, unchanging archetypes that the changing world imperfectly copies. The world of time and change is the shadow. The world of eternal being is the substance. This ancient division between the world of becoming and the world of being, between the flowing and the static, between Heraclitus and Parmenides, is still the deep structure of the debate about the block universe. They were, in some sense, having the block universe debate 25 centuries ago. Heraclitus on the side of change, flow, becoming. Parmenides on the side of the eternal, the static, the block. And like most deep debates in philosophy, this one has not been resolved. It has just been refined, given new technical vocabulary, placed in the context of better and more precise physical theories. But the basic tension is the same one Heraclitus and Parmenides were circling. Is reality fundamentally something that changes, or something that simply is? There is a position that tries to split the difference. It is called the growing block universe. The growing block says that the past is real, it exists in the block, it is permanent, it does not change, but the future does not yet exist, and the block is growing, moment by moment, as the present adds new slices of reality to the fixed structure of the past. This view preserves the permanence of the past, the idea that what has happened is really there, really fixed, really unchangeable, while allowing for an open future, a future that is not yet determined, a future that is still being written. There is something appealing about this. It captures the intuition that the past is fixed and the future is open, something that matters enormously to our sense of freedom, of choice, of the difference between what has been decided and what is still being decided. But it has its own problems. If the present is the growing edge of the block, the moment where new slices are being added, then the present is special in a way that is hard to reconcile with relativity's claim that there is no universal present. Different observers at different speeds have different nows. Which now is the growing edge? Whose present is the one at which new slices are being added? The growing block has trouble with relativity, as does presentism, the view that only the present is real. Special relativity really does seem to push toward the full block, toward all times being equally real, in a way that competing views struggle to accommodate. But let us not resolve the debate, let us sit in it, because the debate itself is interesting. The fact that this question is open, that the smartest people who have ever thought about time are genuinely uncertain about its fundamental nature, is itself remarkable. Time is the medium of our experience. We live in it, we are made of it, we experience every moment of our lives inside it. We have powerful theories that have been tested with extraordinary precision and found to be correct. And those theories point toward the block, They point toward the equal reality of all times. They point toward the flowing present being something the mind generates rather than something the universe contains, but we cannot be certain. And there is something in that uncertainty that is, like all genuine uncertainty about deep things, a kind of invitation, an invitation to sit with the not knowing, to let the question be open, to resist the urge to close it with a quick answer and instead to let it stay open, the way the night sky stays open, full of depth and distance and things we cannot quite make out. Let your breathing slow. Let your body sink deeper into wherever it rests. The ideas have been moving through the mind like slow water. Let them continue to move. You do not need to hold them. We have been talking about the block universe in physical and philosophical terms. Now let us talk about what it means for you, for this night, for the experience of being alive and being here. Because the block universe is not just an abstract physical theory, it is a picture of the world that, if you sit with it long enough, changes how things feel. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly in the way that large and true ideas tend to change things. If the block universe is correct, then you have a coordinate, not just in space, 3 numbers specifying your latitude, longitude, and altitude on Earth, but in space-time, 4 numbers, 3 for where you are and 1 for when. And that coordinate is yours, uniquely, permanently, irreducibly yours. No one else has ever occupied exactly this position in the 4-dimensional block. No one ever will. The specific configuration of matter and energy and awareness that is you, at this exact moment in time, at this exact location in space, this has never existed before and will never exist again. You are a unique point in the block, and that point does not go away. When this moment has passed, when the slice of the block you currently inhabit has receded into the past, it does not cease to exist. It does not dissolve. It remains in the block, at its coordinates, as real as it was when it was the present. This moment right now, the particular quality of this night, the specific feeling of lying here, of breathing slowly, of listening to these words, settle into the mind. This is being woven permanently into the structure of the universe. Not stored in memory, not captured in a photograph, actually happening, always, at its coordinates in the block. Let us think about what uniqueness means in the context of the block. Every human being who has ever lived has a world line in the block. 7 billion world lines exist right now in the present region of the block. Billions more exist in the past region. Billions more will exist in the future region. Each one is unique. Each world line traces a path through space-time that has never been traced before and will never be traced again. Each one encodes a particular sequence of experiences, choices, relationships, moments of understanding, moments of confusion, moments of joy and grief and boredom and aliveness. The variety is staggering. The range of human experience encoded in the block, in the billions of world lines that constitute human history, is almost inconceivably large. Your world line is one of those. One thread in an incomprehensibly rich tapestry, not more important than the others, not less, but entirely, completely, unrepeatably your own. The particular combination of experiences that make up your life, the specific people you have known, the specific places you have been, the specific sequence of thoughts and feelings and perceptions that have made up your consciousness. This combination has never existed before in the history of the universe. It will never exist again. It is yours, and it is permanent. In the block, at its coordinates, your world line will always be there, the full length of it from birth to death. Every moment you have ever lived, every moment you will ever live, all of it fixed and permanent in the 4-dimensional structure. Now let us think about the moments in your life that felt insignificant at the time. The ordinary Tuesdays, the unremarkable afternoons, the days when nothing much happened and you did nothing much, and the time passed and you forgot it almost immediately. In the block universe, those moments are as real and permanent as the peak experiences, the moments of greatest joy or greatest grief or greatest significance. Every ordinary moment is in the block, every quiet hour, every uneventful evening, every routine morning that felt like nothing but was, in fact, the full, rich, complex texture of a particular consciousness on a particular day, at particular coordinates in the block. We tend to privilege the memorable moments, the ones that left marks in memory that we return to and reconstruct and carry with us. And those moments are important, but they are no more real in the block than the ones we have forgotten. The conversations we barely remember having, the places we passed through and did not notice, the thoughts we had and immediately let go of. All of those are in the block. All of those are permanent, the full texture of a human life, not the highlight reel, not the curated selection, but every single moment of it is inscribed in the block as an unchanging four-dimensional object. Your life in its entirety is there, not as a recording, as itself, as the actual thing, at its actual coordinates, happening as it actually happened. There is something about this that speaks to the ordinary moments you are living right now. This night, this particular darkness, this specific quality of rest and thought and the slow movement of breath. By tomorrow, this might be a blur. In a week, it will probably not be remembered in any detail. In a year, it will almost certainly be gone from conscious memory entirely. But it will be in the block. This exact configuration, this mind in this body in this darkness, thinking these thoughts at this hour will always have been. It is being inscribed into the permanent structure of space-time right now at these coordinates, and nothing that ever happens can uninscribe it. The block does not have an eraser. Everything that happens permanently, and that includes this quiet night, this slow breath, this awareness that is here, paying gentle attention to these ideas, and then letting them go, and then drifting closer to sleep. All of it permanent, all of it real, all of it yours. There is a way of thinking about identity that becomes very interesting in the light of the block universe. We usually think of ourselves as moving through time. The self persists. It changes, grows, ages, but there is a continuous thread, a continuous entity that is you, moving from birth to death. In the block universe picture, this is exactly right, but means something slightly different. You are not a thing that moves through the block. You are a thing in the block. Your world line, the four-dimensional path your body traces through space-time, is a fixed, permanent feature of the block. It curves and bends as you move through space. It extends from the moment of your birth to the moment of your death. And it is, in a very precise sense, you. The full, complete, four-dimensional you. Not the thin slice of you that exists at this moment, but you in your entirety, every moment you have ever lived and every moment you will ever live. All of it laid out in the four-dimensional structure. The child you were is part of your world line. The elderly person you will become, or the younger person, or however your world line ends, is part of your world line. The you of tonight, lying in the dark, thinking about time, is part of your world line. All of it is you, not sequentially, not one after the other. All of it simultaneously in the block. This gives a strange answer to a question that has occupied philosophers for a very long time. The question of personal identity. What makes you the same person you were 10 years ago? Your body has changed. Almost every atom has been replaced. Your memories, while continuous with those of your past self, are selective and reconstructed. They are not perfect records. Your beliefs, your values, your personality, your relationships, all of these have shifted and changed. In what sense are you the same person? One answer given by the philosopher Derek Parfit and others is that personal identity is just a matter of psychological continuity, chains of memory, overlapping intentions, continuity of personality. You are the same person as your 10-year-old self because there is a chain of overlapping memories and intentions connecting the two. In the block universe, there is another answer. You are the same person because you are the same world line. The 10-year-old you and the current you are different temporal parts of the same four-dimensional object. The same world line, different positions along it, but the same thing. The way the left side of a room and the right side of a room are different spatial parts of the same room. You are not a thing that moves through time. You are a thing that has extent in time, the same way a road has extent in space. Let us think about what this means for the future. The future you, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, at the end of your life, is a part of your world line. In the block universe, that future you already exists. The experiences they will have are already in the block. The version of yourself that will live through whatever the coming years bring, their joys, their challenges, their growth, their losses. All of that is real in the block at the coordinates of the future. In one sense, this is deeply deterministic. The future is already there. What is going to happen is going to happen. The block does not change. But in another sense, it does not feel the way determinism usually feels. Usually determinism feels like being trapped, like the future is a cage you are walking into, like freedom is an illusion and choice is meaningless. But in the block universe picture, the future being real does not mean you do not choose it. You are choosing it right now. Every decision you make, every action you take, every thought you entertain, these are part of the world line. They are part of how the block is structured in your region. They are real. The block does not constrain your choices. Your choices are in the block. The choices in the block are the same thing. There is a paradox here that philosophers call the problem of free will in a deterministic universe. If everything is already in the block, if the future is already there, fixed and real, then in what sense do you have any freedom? In what sense does your choice matter? The choice is already determined. It is already in the block. Whatever you are going to do, you are going to do. This is the oldest and hardest problem in the philosophy of time and free will, and I will not pretend it has an easy resolution. But there is a perspective on it that has always seemed worth considering. The fact that a choice is in the block does not mean it was made without reason or without care or without the full engagement of your values and desires and judgment. The block contains causes as well as effects. It contains reasons as well as outcomes. Your deliberation about what to do, the weighing of options, the consideration of consequences, the consultation of your values is in the block. The decision that emerges from that deliberation is also in the block. The fact that both are in the block does not make the deliberation fake or the decision meaningless. The deliberation is the cause of the decision. Both are real. Both are in the block. Determinism does not mean your choices do not matter. It means your choices are part of the causal structure of the universe, which is exactly what you would want them to be. Let your breathing deepen again. The ideas have moved through something large and difficult, free will and determinism, and the nature of choice in a block universe. Let them rest now. Let the mind go soft. The night is deep. You are at your coordinates in the block. and that is enough. Before we move to what the poets and mystics have said about time, let us spend a moment with something more concrete, something that happened in ordinary life that illustrates how real the block universe picture is, not a thought experiment, a measurement. In 1971, physicists Joseph Haffel and Richard Keating did something that sounds almost like a joke. They took 4 extremely precise atomic clocks, cesium beam frequency standards, among the most accurate timekeeping devices ever built, and they put them on commercial airplanes. 2 of the planes flew eastward around the world, 2 flew westward around the world. And when the clocks landed and were compared to reference clocks that had stayed on the ground at the Naval Observatory in Washington, the clocks showed different times. Not by a lot. We are talking about billionths of a second. But the differences were exactly what Einstein's theories predicted. The clocks in the air had aged differently from the clocks on the ground. Not because something was wrong with them, not because of mechanical interference or electromagnetic noise, but because time itself had passed at different rates for the different clocks. The clocks on the planes were moving faster than the clocks on the ground, and at higher altitude in a weaker gravitational field. Both effects, speed and gravity, slow the rate at which time passes, each in its own way, and the experiment measured both effects and found them exactly as predicted. Time passes differently depending on where you are and how fast you are moving. This is not a subtle or abstract effect confined to exotic physics. It is built into the GPS system every phone on Earth uses every day. The satellites that make GPS work are moving fast and are in a weaker gravitational field than the ground. Without constant correction for relativistic time dilation, GPS would accumulate errors of several miles per day. Every time you use a map on your phone, you are benefiting from a correction that only exists because Einstein was right about time. And what does this mean for the block universe? It means that different world lanes through the block accumulate different amounts of time. If you lived your entire life on the surface of the Earth, your world line would accumulate a certain amount of proper time, the time, as measured by a clock you carried with you. If you spent part of your life on the International Space Station, moving faster than anyone on the ground, your world line would accumulate slightly less proper time over the same journey through the block. You would be very slightly younger than you would have been had you stayed on Earth. Not by much. Astronauts on the space station gain only a fraction of a second over 6-month missions. But the difference is real. It has been measured. It is one of the most precisely confirmed effects in physics. The block is the same for everyone, but different world lanes through the block have different lengths in the time dimension, different amounts of proper time, different rates of aging. This is the deep strangeness of the block universe made concrete and measurable. Time is not a river that everyone rides at the same speed. It is a dimension of space-time that different world lines traverse at different rates, depending on their speed and their position in a gravitational field. Gravity, in Einstein's general relativity, is itself a curvature of space-time. Massive objects, the Earth, the Sun, a black hole, bend the 4-dimensional fabric of the block around them, and the rate at which time passes is affected by that curvature. Near a massive object where space-time is more curved, time passes more slowly. Further away, where space-time is less curved, time passes faster. Stand at sea level deep in the Earth's gravitational well, and time passes very slightly slower than it does for someone standing on a mountain. The difference is tiny, but it is real. It has been measured. If you could live near a black hole in the region just outside its event horizon, where gravity is enormous and space-time is drastically curved, time would pass so slowly for you that decades might pass in the outside universe, while only minutes passed for you. This is not science fiction. It is the direct consequence of general relativity, which has been tested and confirmed more thoroughly than almost any other theory in science. The block universe is not a philosophical fantasy. It is the structure that this evidence points toward. A four-dimensional space-time fabric, curved by mass and energy, through which different world lines pass at different proper time rates, but which itself simply is all of it, past, present, and future, the entire structure, simultaneously real. Let the mind rest with that for a moment. You are in the block. Your world line is accumulating proper time at the rate determined by where you are and how fast you are moving. Lying here on the surface of the Earth, at rest, in the gravitational field of a planet time, is passing for you at the rate it passes for someone in your circumstances, not fast, not slow. Just the rate, your rate, the rate of this particular world line at these particular coordinates in this particular gravitational field. And as each moment of proper time accumulates, it is inscribed permanently into the block. Permanent, real, yours. The block universe is a product of 20th century physics, but the experience it describes the sense of time as something other than a simple flow, the intuition that the present moment opens onto something vaster and more permanent, the feeling that what is past is not gone. This is not new. Mystics, poets, and contemplatives of every tradition have circled around it for as long as human beings have been asking questions about time. Not in the language of physics, not with the mathematics of space-time, but in the language available to them: metaphor, poetry, prayer, meditation, and with a precision that in its own way is remarkable. The remarkable thing is not that ancient mystics somehow knew about special relativity. They did not. They were working with completely different tools, asking completely different questions. The remarkable thing is that their questions led them to similar places: the question of how to be at peace with time, how to hold the past and the future without being destroyed by their weight, how to find something stable in the midst of constant change, how to relate to what has been and what will be from the ground of what is. This question leads, if pursued far enough, to something that rhymes with the physics. Not identical, not provably connected, but resonant. In the way that different instruments playing different notes can sometimes produce, unexpectedly, the same chord. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart, writing in the 14th century, said something that sounds almost exactly like the block universe in theological language. He wrote about what he called the eternal now. He said that God exists in an eternal present, not a sequence of moments, but a single all-encompassing now, in which all of time is simultaneously present. For Eckhart, past and future do not exist separately from the divine perspective. They are all contained in the eternal now. The creation of the world and the end of the world and every moment in between are all present to God simultaneously. He was not speaking about physics. He was speaking about the nature of eternity and the relationship between the divine and time. But the structure of what he was saying is strikingly similar to the block universe. The eternal perspective sees all times at once. It contains past, present, and future in a single, simultaneous whole. And what Einstein's physics describes as the four-dimensional block, all times equally real, no privileged present, the whole structure existing at once, has a curious resemblance to what Eckhart called the eternal now. Eckhart also wrote about what he called the ground of the soul, the deepest part of the self that is not caught up in the flow of time, that exists, in some sense, at the still point, not moving from past to future, not anxious about what has been or what will come, just present in the eternal now, in the awareness that contains all moments without being contained by any of them. He was writing about spiritual practice and the nature of the divine, but the experience he was pointing toward, the experience of something that does not flow, something beneath the surface of temporal experience, is something that meditators of every tradition have reported. And it is something that the block universe, in its own way, locates at the deepest level of physical reality. The still point is not just a spiritual metaphor. It might be the fundamental structure of space-time. The Buddhist tradition has a different relationship to the permanence of time. Buddhism emphasizes impermanence, anicca, as one of the fundamental characteristics of existence. Everything arises and passes, everything is in flux. Clinging to things as if they are permanent causes suffering because they are not. This seems to be the opposite of the block universe view. But there is a subtle convergence. Buddhism does not say that what has passed is still happening somewhere. It says something subtler, that the present moment is the only moment. And that moment includes all of its causes and conditions. The past, for Buddhism, is not a separate realm, but the set of causes and conditions that have produced this present moment. And what Buddhism points toward in meditation, in practice, in the cultivation of awareness, is a quality of presence that is in some ways beyond the ordinary flow of time. In deep meditation, the sense of time flowing can temporarily dissolve. The experience becomes one of simply being here, without the constant movement from past to future that usually characterizes waking consciousness. This is sometimes described as timelessness, not the absence of time, but a mode of being in which the ordinary temporal quality of experience is suspended. And what practitioners of meditation often report from these states is not emptiness, not absence, but a peculiar fullness, a sense of completeness, a sense that this moment, just as it is enough, which rhymes in its own way with the block universe. The block is complete. It does not need to be added to. This moment at its coordinates in the block is sufficient, whole, real. There is a line that comes from the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, who wrote his private meditations while commanding Roman armies in the 2nd century CE. He wrote about time this way: loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Marcus Aurelius was not thinking about space-time. He was trying to make peace with the passage of time, with the loss of people and things and moments, and eventually of his own life. And his answer was to locate what seemed like loss within a larger picture. The loss is real, but it is part of something larger that continues. The change is real, but change is not destruction. It is transformation. What was one thing becomes another thing, and the universe, in its nature, delights in this. In the block universe, you can read his words a different way. Loss is a change in your position in the block. You have moved from the coordinates where the good thing existed to coordinates where it is past. The good thing has not been destroyed. It is elsewhere in the block, at its own coordinates. Let the body settle a little more now, the breathing slow, the mind softer. The night is very deep, and the block is very still. And you are here at your coordinates, exactly where you are supposed to be if the block has anything like a supposition, which it does not, but which it also in some sense simply is. You are here. The past is behind you in the block, real, permanent. The future is ahead of you in the block, real, already there. In this moment, this breath, this darkness, this quiet awareness is also in the block, being inscribed right now into the permanent structure of space-time, and it always will have been. We are very deep into the night now. The ideas have done their work. They have opened something in the way that big ideas do, not solving anything, not providing neat answers, but widening the space in which the ordinary world sits. Time is stranger than it appears. The past is not gone in the way it usually seems. The future is not absent in the way it usually seems. In this moment right now, as you lie in the dark and breathe slowly and feel the weight of your body on the surface beneath you, this moment is real in a way that does not depend on it being remembered or recorded or held onto. It is real because it is in the block, and the block does not change. Consider for a moment the size of the block. The universe has been around for 13.8 billion years. In those 13.8 billion years, light has traveled to create an observable universe roughly 93 billion light years in diameter. The block, the four-dimensional space-time structure, contains all of that, every cubic meter of that space, every second of that time. Within it, there are an estimated 2 trillion galaxies, each galaxy containing hundreds of billions of stars, most stars with planetary systems. And within one of those planetary systems, orbiting an unremarkable star in an outer arm of an unremarkable galaxy, is a small blue-green planet that has existed for 4.5 billion years. On that planet for about 600 million years, complex life has existed. For about 300,000 years, anatomically modern humans have existed. And for a tiny, almost unmeasurable fraction of those 300,000 years, for roughly a century, in one particular culture, building on centuries of prior work, human beings have developed the mathematical tools to understand that the universe is a four-dimensional block, that all times exist equally, that the present is not privileged, that nothing that has ever been real is ever truly gone. The block is almost incomprehensibly large, and it contains within it the fact that one species on one small planet at one particular time figured out that the block exists. That is extraordinary. Not because it changes anything about the block is what it is, whether or not anything inside it knows about it, but because it means that the block contains awareness of itself. The universe, through the medium of conscious beings who developed physics and mathematics, and the capacity for abstract reasoning, has become aware of its own four-dimensional structure. You are right now a small part of that awareness, a point in the block that knows it is in the block. Think about all the moments in your life that felt like they mattered. Moments of real joy, of genuine connection, of beauty that surprised you, of quiet that settled something, of laughter that came from deep enough to be real. In the ordinary picture of time, those moments are gone. They happened, they ended, they receded into the past. They live on only in memory, and memory is imperfect, and eventually memory itself will go. But in the block universe picture, Those moments are not gone. They are at their coordinates in the block. Still there. Still happening. Still as real as they were when they were present. The laughter is still happening at its coordinates. The quiet is still happening at its coordinates. The moment of beauty is still there in the block, exactly as vivid and real as it was, not as a memory, as itself. Think about the specific texture of this night, the particular way the darkness feels, the temperature of the air, the sounds that are present, however few, however distant, the specific quality of your tiredness and your calm, the particular thoughts that have passed through while these words were speaking. All of this is being fixed right now into the block, not as a recording, not as a memory, as itself. The exact molecular configuration of your brain as it processes these words, the exact pattern of neural activity, the exact state of every atom in your body at this precise moment. All of it real, all of it at its coordinates, all of it permanent. This is not something you need to do anything about. You do not need to make it more permanent. You do not need to try to remember it. You do not need to mark the occasion. It is already permanent. It always will have been. The block handles it. You just need to be here, which you already are. There is something here that reaches toward what human beings have always wanted from the idea of eternity. The desire to preserve what is precious, to protect what matters from the ravages of time, to somehow ensure that what was good and real and beautiful does not simply evaporate. Different traditions have answered this desire differently. Religion has often placed the preservation of the precious in the hands of God, an eternal being in whose memory nothing is lost. Art is an attempt to preserve, to take something real and translate it into a form that will outlast the original. Love has sometimes been described as a kind of defiance of time, the feeling that this thing, this person, this connection matters enough to be permanent, even in a world where nothing is permanent. The block universe offers a physical version of what all of these are reaching toward. The preservation is not in God's memory or in art or in the power of love. It is in the structure of space-time itself. What was real is permanently real, at its coordinates, in the block, no memory required, no artifact required, no ongoing act of preservation required, just the basic, quiet, physical fact that the block does not come undone. The night is very deep, the block is very large, and here at these coordinates, everything is still. Your breath is moving. In, slow, out. Slow. The lungs know what to do. The body knows what to do. You do not need to manage it. You can let it go on without you. Somewhere in the block you were born. A specific moment, specific coordinates. A particular hospital room or home. In a particular city. At a particular hour of a particular day. That moment is still there. The first breath, the first cry, the first awareness of the world, pouring in through fresh senses, all of it still happening at its coordinates in the block. The people who were there, their faces, their relief and joy, the particular texture of that moment, all of it still real, still there, permanent. And somewhere else in the block, the years of your childhood, the particular way certain places looked and smelled and felt, the specific quality of certain days, a summer afternoon, a winter morning, a night that felt somehow important without knowing why. All of it in the block, all of it at its coordinates, all of it real, and the people who were important, the ones who shaped you without knowing they were shaping you, the ones you loved, the ones you lost, the ones who are still here, somewhere else in the world, at their own coordinates. All of them in the block, all of them real, all of them permanent. The thoughts are slowing now. There is not much left to think. The ideas have settled somewhere deep, where they will continue to do their quiet work. After the words stop, after sleep comes. The room is very still. The world outside is quiet. Time is moving, or perhaps you are moving through time, or perhaps neither is quite right. And the block is simply what it is, and awareness is here at these coordinates, noticing. Somewhere in the block, right now, there are people looking at the same sky you slept under as a child. There are children being born. There are very old people coming to the end of their world lanes. There are moments of great joy and moments of deep grief. There are ordinary Tuesday afternoons in 1,000 cities. There are sunrises over oceans. There are mountains covered in snow. There are forests full of night sounds. All of it at its coordinates in the block. All of it equally real. All of it permanent. And here at these coordinates, this darkness, this warmth, this breath, this awareness, this specific, unrepeatable, permanent moment is also in the block. You are in the block. You have always been in the block. You will always have been in the block. The past stretches behind you, real, permanent, unchanged. The future lies ahead, real, permanent, already there. Every moment, every breath, every night like this one. Every awareness that has ever turned toward the strangeness of time and wandered quietly in the dark. It is all there, all of it real, all of it permanent. Breathe in, breathe out. The block is still. You are at your coordinates. Everything that needs to be real is real. Everything that needs to be permanent is permanent. The present moment always will have been. Good night. That moment is still happening in the block. The person who held you, the first breath, the first awareness of light and sound and warmth and cold, all of it still there, at its coordinates, somewhere else in the block, this night, this exact configuration, this darkness, this breathing, these ideas floating through the quiet mind, all of it being woven right now into the permanent structure. The past is not gone. The future is already real. And this moment, this thin slice of the block that you are currently experiencing is as real and permanent as anything has ever been. Breathe in, breathe out. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. The breath moves in, out. The block is very still. And here, in the stillness, at your coordinates, everything is exactly as it should be. The past is behind you in the block. All of it there. All of it real. The future is ahead of you in the block. Already existing. Already real. Waiting at its coordinates for your world line to arrive. And here, right here, this present moment, this breath, this awareness, this quiet is also real. Permanently, irrevocably, always. At its coordinates, in the block. Good night.